welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I am your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak to the brilliant and creative people and kooky people who make the greatest coming attractions, movie posters, and digital campaigns of all time. This program is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards, which we're recording this just, a few days after the awards. It'll probably get released in a couple weeks. But anyway, it just happened. It was really fun. We're also brought to you by Brent Allen Hagel. You know him as Trailer VO Brent. I can't do it. He makes the big bucks doing that, but it's not me. That's why I'm not the VO guy, but Brent is. We're also brought to you by Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. And today, I am so pleased to be joined by my friend, Andrea Weeks, Executive Creative Director and part owner of AV Squad. Yeah. That's pretty cool, right?
That's weird to hear, but yeah, we're in it together, the whole company.
That's pretty cool. So when we got together for lunch, I think it was the day before the big announcement, you were all nervous. You were like, they're going to announce something. Are they closing shop?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's an interesting time in the industry, so you never know what's coming around. I mean, everybody kept saying it was good. They actually announced it, and before they announced it, they had a whole list of what people were thinking. Maybe we're going to go back to a different lunch platform. Maybe we're being acquired. Maybe we're taking over something. So it was kind of funny how they how they positioned it to us all.
They're moving back to the original pool house where Chad.
Yeah. Yeah, we're moving into Seth's house.
That's pretty funny. Actually, Seth's not there anymore. So, wait, is that a whole new house? I know they were in the garage, but actually, you know what? It's the same location, but a completely rebuilt house.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
So actually, they could, they could just kind of take up space. I'm sure Marsha would be fine with it.
Yeah.
So in all seriousness, so tell us, for folks that don't know, that was the big announcement, 100% employee owned. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're going to talk about Andrea Weeks, but what does that mean? ESOP, for folks who don't know, what does it mean to be an employee-owned company?
Well, it's funny. I think the minute I mentioned it to my wife, she was kind of just like, "So you're Bob's Red Mill?" That's how it goes. But yeah, I guess it's. Oh man, I don't know if I'm best equipped to go into the whole ESOP of it all, but I think on a higher overall cultural level, it's nice to feel like we're all having ownership in it. And I do think when I was, Chad told me about it, I was like, this seems like a logical step for AV Squad and how you all do business. I do find that they really, truly care about their employees in this other way that not every company does. And just the idea of also a succession plan, and what this company would be like just moving on for years to come. So I think it's been really cool to see that's kind of all right, you all are putting in all this time and all this effort. We're in it together too. I think with the former owners, now presidents, I guess, so what to say, but they have always been there with us. They're not, off somewhere. We're all really in it together. So I think the idea of it being employee owned and we're in it together is really cool and wonderful.
It is. It is really cool. And it's definitely in the spirit of what the company's been about for so long. Everybody knows I'm a huge admirer of AV Squad and the people that are that are AV Squad. So it's definitely representative of the spirit of that company. In that, the success of the company is truly everybody's success.
Yeah.
So there's a concrete way that's happened. So Andrea Weeks, so growing up the coast of Maine, there were some things about your biography that I didn't know. Like your dad was an abstract artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He did handmade paper, and then I think was inspired by Russian constructionism, something like that.
Okay.
To really get into it, but yeah, so he was an artist, and then my mom worked for the Forest Service, so it was kind of a mix of a very creative dad, and my mom was more kind of scientific and business mindset. But yeah, I grew up in this town in Maine, Gunquit, and it used to be a former artist colony. I mean, there's still galleries and whatnot there, but it started off in the 1920s and as an artist colony. So there was just always a lot of just local art stuff happening, which was really cool and special. So yeah, I kind of grew up in this this place of going to local concerts and local art shows, and I did kind of grow up in galleries, like local small Maine galleries, with my dad, who would be like either working there to like install shows, or yeah, I think one of my first jobs was like helping at the gallery, so getting like a tiny little paycheck every week when I was still like in high school.
That's pretty
um
cool.
yeah,
Now, did
yeah.
your parents were they from that town, or did they
No,
seek it
my
out?
yeah, they found it. My parents were from my mom was from Rochester, New York, and my dad was from outside the city, New York City. And then they met in New Hampshire, and then kind of went and looked for a place in Maine. I think they always wanted to be in Maine. And they found a listing of like a small fixer-upper near the ocean in a gunkwit, and kind of just were like, oh, let's do it. Let's go for it. And that was like the 70s. And my mom still lives there. So it's like, yeah, it's a really cool place to go home to.
So that could be like an ideal way to grow up, but the way you just described it could also be the beginning of like a Neon or A24 film. and,
Yeah.
and then everything went south.
Could it be a horror movie, or yeah, what is it, a comedy? Yeah, no, I mean it's cool. Like I literally like grew up across the street from like, it's the Gunkwit Museum of American Art.
Wow.
So I, again, would just like go to the gallery openings and be like running around as a kid. And yeah, it's just it was, I didn't realize how special it was until I kind of like was like, oh, okay, like I guess not everybody grows up in galleries. Um so yeah.
It sounds like your parents really nurtured a love of art and film
Mhm.
and theater and yeah.
Yeah, and I think my mom still volunteers at that museum, and does like school groups, and takes like tourists around and stuff. So I think they really value the arts, and they also would be, very upset if the government was taking money away from like funding the arts, and they understood, I think, also that the arts were so important to like understanding the world and empathizing with the world.
Yeah.
And along with other, science and math and all that stuff, like the arts were equally as important to like just to be able to yeah, to understand the world, and to be able to learn how to navigate it, and also to like just help other people. I think the arts are a way to, yeah, to kind of help shift the world in some way,
Right.
to get a little bit more political. Like I remember even like with my parents, like going to my first protests, so like peace protests and stuff with them, and in like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, standing on a corner, like holding like a little sign that with like a peace dove that my that they made. So yeah, there was a lot of, it's an interesting place. Like I think that part of New England, because there's just a lot of kind of yeah, there's a lot of artistic stuff going on, and then also there's a lot of discussion about even this like larger political stuff that's happening.
Yeah. No, it's very real. What's happening right now can be felt in very concrete ways. One of the shows that I produce is it's largely funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities,
Mm.
and fortunately they have other donors, but that's a significant chunk of their funding. And that means, and it's to your point, it's like it's what binds us together.
Mhm.
It's a way of, I think that one of the ways that you described your experience, once you became a teenager, and were in New York, a little bit later, it's the way that you began to understand the world, seeing independent film and,
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's, I, I'm trying, I'm trying not to think about it too much.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah.
politics part of it, although that is one hat that I wear, the whole politics and
Yeah,
religion
yeah.
show, but but it's being felt in a very real way, so people are
Yeah.
making their livelihoods by kind of telling us as a community who we are and reflecting who we are, the mirror up to nature, as
Yeah.
Shakespeare would put it. Um, and then I don't know, it just hits us on so many levels. Sorry, now I'm
No, no,
trailing
I mean,
off.
no, but I think it's important to say. I mean, the arts are something that connects us, and I think sometimes that's the first things that tend to be attacked, because it is a way to connect and understand each other and learn about each other. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, with independent film too, I think that's why it was independent film's so important. I mean, studios system also very important, and wonderful movies are made. But I think with the independent films that I kind of grew up with, my parents also loved just taking me to different movies and watching different stuff. It just was stuff that I wouldn't have like been able to understand in Maine that was happening on like another part of the world. Like I already had, like I would have access to understand like what that person was going through or what that story was about. So it's just, yeah, it's just so beautiful the way that these stories and experiences can be shared through the arts.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Now, so did you have a sense pretty early on in your teenage years that film was something that you were going to pursue?
No, I mean, that's what's so funny. Like, the town I grew up in did have a summer stock theater that started out like in the 1920s, and like all these like famous old timey stars would come, and they still have like their wall of like old timey stars up there. But film was pretty foreign to me. Like, they would film like, I don't know, maybe like a couple movies a year in Maine. And I remember one time, I forgot exactly what they were filming, but it was in Maine closest, and my dad drove me down so I could kind of like watch them film and shoot. And I was just like, this is so cool, but like, again, so foreign. Like, this, why is this happening in Maine? Nothing like this ever happens here. So I always was admired film, but I was like, oh, I think theater obviously feels like the path for me, because like I grew up going to the theater. I eventually worked at the theater in my hometown. So I was like, oh, theater is the way I can kind of explore the arts in this way. So that this is kind of where I'm going to lead. But I ended up going to Emerson and like became friends with all the film majors, and they're like, why aren't you doing film? Like, you seem to really love film. But I still stuck with theater directing, and I don't know. At that time when I was younger, I really wanted to do political theater, and thought that that might be like an avenue to have these kind of discussions and explore things.
So
And
what do you mean by political theater?
well, just theater that, I don't know. When I was in college, I did like a thing where it was like disco dancers against Bush and the war. So
That's
kind of
awesome.
having fun with it, but like, being able to share ideas and to kind of sometimes point out things that I thought should be discussed. And even, yeah, at that time too, I started going to this kind of local salon thing with like Theaters Against the War, and met so many really cool artists that way, who were all just kind of, yeah, again, sharing experiences and thoughts and stuff. But I was really interested in using art again to have these discussions and move things forward in that way. And I think also gravitated to a lot of like the films that did that kind of stuff as well. But again, I was like, oh, I'm not a film person, because I never really grew up with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so getting into film was definitely very surprising. I ended up like graduating with my theater degree, but I mean, still took some photography and film classes in there. But I knew like I made my way eventually down to New York during college, and knew I didn't really want to go the Broadway route.
Yeah.
so so I tried to figure out like where
I'm trying to
what.
picture you with jazz hands. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
No, again, I was, directing major all the way behind the scenes, kind of, sitting in the back row and talking to the actors and everybody else. But yeah, no jazz hands for me. I mean, again, another wonderful form of entertainment, but just not my overall vibe. But yeah, so I was trying to figure out like what to do, and I started just looking for like different postings and stuff, and I saw that Sony Classics had an
Perfect.
internship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had just seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and drove through a snowstorm with my friend to go see it. Our car spun out and everything, but we still were like, we got to go see this movie. When I was back in Maine, like at that time. So when I went back down to New York and saw that they had this internship, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, that might be interesting to like see what it's about. And I do love like that. I love that film. I love this company. So I went,
This is part of the comedy. So your car
yeah,
spun out,
yeah,
winter storm, you get to the theater and they're like, yeah, no, we're sold out.
yeah.
You're like, no, you don't understand. We
Yeah, no,
must
no, no.
see
We actually saw it. Like, we actually got it, and they actually, like, I was like, is a power going to be on? Like, this is a pretty intense snowstorm in
Yeah.
Maine, but I was always like, we'll power through. That's the Mainer way. We'll power through the snowstorm. But yeah, so and I love the film so much. So yeah, so I went down and met with them. It was to be an assistant to the EVP of acquisitions. I did this crazy gauntlet of interviews, probably the most interviews I've ever done in my life for a job. And just shared with them how much I loved Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and they were just really excited about that. So yeah, it was a really cool way to enter into this world I kind of never thought I would be able to be a part of, just because it was so foreign
Yeah.
and far away to me. And yeah, I still, am so grateful for that internship and all the people that I met at Sony Classics.
Did you already know how to do coverage and stuff like that?
No, I learned. Yeah. I mean, well, I get eventually, I would do a lot of writing about like plays and different stuff like that. But like the specific way of like how the acquisitions department wants coverage done, like, I just learned from them. And
Oh, okay.
it's,
So did you read others' coverage and that you learned the format? And
yeah. And they kind of had, I mean, their internship program was really great. Like you would spend, I think, like, I forgot if it was like a week or 2 weeks with the person who'd been there previously, and they would, show you the ropes and everything. And they always hired great people, so we were all like, it was pretty supportive with one another. But yeah, no, I my weekends during that time were just really watching so many films, reading so many scripts, trying to keep up with it all, and churning out that coverage for our Monday morning meeting. So it was,
it must have been a great, like, kind of introduction to the actual industry and how movies are made and, the whole
yeah.
development process and,
Yeah, totally. Because I think at that point too, like I didn't, again, like having friends who were film majors, learning about how they were making their student films, and then like, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, whoa, this is the whole industry that I didn't really know anything about. Like,
right.
again, I think I took like film classes in high school, and we would just watch like Bonnie and Clyde and things like that. I'm like, oh, these are cool films, but like never really had this formal um understanding of how this whole machine works. So um, yeah, and with Sony Classics, with the internship too, like they were very focused on like the festival circuit and like what films were going to be, I remember when the Sundance announcements would come out, we would just be like there, like toiling away, like really quickly trying to track
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, it was really just like, I guess, baptism by fire, if that if
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by Soundstripe. So if you're an editor, a producer, a creative exec, a music supervisor, or even a podcaster like me, if you're a content creator of all stripes, if you will, and you're looking for the perfect library of music and sound effects, check out Soundstripe. With over 10,000 high quality tracks, including music from Grammy winning artists, Soundstripe makes music licensing hassle free. Believe me, I've tried it. I've been on there, I've navigated around. It was really terrific. It was really easy to use. So, with a simple subscription, you get unlimited access to a vast catalog, downloadable stems for creative flexibility, and AI song editing to customize tracks effortlessly. Plus, their seamless integration with Premiere, which is what most of my editor friends are on, it means a smoother editing experience. If you're ready to level up your production game with properly licensed, high quality music and sound effects, head over to soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and save 10% with code trailergeeks. That's soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and code trailergeeks. And did you get the gig with Zealot in New York right after your time with Sony Classics?
Yeah, no, so it was, I think a few months after I finished up my internship and met a lot of people on that way, through the EVP was like, listen, like, I'm gonna give you a couple of people to talk to, just go out and do as many informationals as you can. He's like, you're gonna build a pyramid. Like, I'm gonna give you two people, and then more people are gonna give you people. And I was like, okay, okay, yeah, I'll go out and build my pyramid. But it really was true. Like, I think also the New York independent film community just always felt so open and supportive. Like, people were always willing to like just chat with you. I mean, obviously, like I had my in through my internship to start chatting with different people, but yeah, so I just went out and talked to like a lot of different people at the time, and I think I helped out with one of the PR teams that worked for Sony Classics during the Tribeca Film Festival, being like, should I do this? Like, I don't know. Like, I really miss the actual hands-on creative
Mm.
that I think I did more with theater and directing in school. So coming out of like this internship where I would like read so many scripts and watch things and kind of do that kind of coverage, but not be able to like really have the hands-on creative made me realize that somehow I want to still do the hands-on creative with this. But so after that, like talking to all these different people, I think that Zealot, and I'm like, what is Zealot? And it's like, oh, it's the trailer house. It was looking for like a production assistant coordinator, and I was like, okay, well, let me go and talk to them. So it didn't actually come through Sony, but um, when I met with them, it was literally, I think they had just been there for like under a year. They were at a post facility down on Spring Street in New York, and they had like 2 bays. So I showed up, and it was like 3 Australians. So
Right.
it was Mark, and then Megan and Jason, and Megan was the producer, and Jason was the CD. So and then they were very excited that I was like had worked at Sony Classics because they had just done a trailer, I think, for what was the name of that film? I can't remember the name of the film at the moment, but they had just done like their first trailer with Sony. So they're like, ooh, Sony person, let me ask
Right.
you all the questions.
Yeah.
So that's how I found Zealot, which was, I guess changed the course of my life. Like
Yeah.
from
What
there.
did you were you curious about the trailer side of things, or creative advertising, or
Yeah, because like and when I was at Sony, it's kind of funny. Sony, I don't know if they still do this, but at the time they ran their trailers through the acquisition department.
okay.
Where usually everywhere else it's through the marketing department. But so I remember like, and at that time too, like big old like print canisters being wheeled
Yeah.
down to the theater so they could like watch stuff and review it that way. But no, I always thought trailers were really, really interesting, and I would watch a lot of trailers too, obviously. Going to the theater and then watching different stuff online. But yeah, I didn't really like think about trailers as as a career at that
Yeah,
point
yeah.
or anything.
And as far as Zealot, they already had the London office, right? At that point?
Yeah. So they had Australia. They started in Australia, and then Mark was hired, and then went up to London and established the London office. And then Sean, who was like the Australian owner, went up to London, and then Mark came over to New York. And I think Mark really always wanted to be in New York.
Hmm.
So he also saw an opportunity there, so which was
Yeah.
really cool. So the Australians came to New York, which was great. I feel like I learned so much about Australia through them than I ever thought I would in my life. So
Right,
it
right.
was,
And then, but being like a really boutique team when you first started there, it was a good opportunity because you had the opportunity to grow really quickly,
yeah, for sure. No, I lucked out, and I really I give a lot of credit to Megan, the producer there, who really took me under her wing and was like, "This is how producing works," and really guided me through all of that. And I was running around for them doing so many different things, wearing so many different hats. But they were also pulling me into the Bay, which was amazing. And like they would always be like, "What's your thoughts?" Like first, and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to be the first one to speak." But they were very open, which was amazing. And Mark too, like really he trusted me with a lot of stuff as we like kept to growing and moving forward as a company, which I'm really grateful for.
So that's actually something you just said. They would pull you into the Bay and ask you your thoughts. That's a really important part of the job to this day. Not necessarily saying, telling people what you think, but like
Yeah.
um, being developing collaboration, developing communication with the other people that are involved.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
giving you the opportunity to not just have a voice, but to be part of that conversation of what leads to a final piece or an overall campaign, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's really important. I mean, what we do is so subjective. Like it's an art form, but it's so subjective. Like anybody can have an opinion about it. Like I can't go and have an opinion on some crazy mathematical equation formulation thing, but like it's so important to get different perspectives on stuff. because part of this is also so like instinctual and things can play so differently to different people. So, but and I think too, like creating a supportive community where you do feel like you can, walk into a bay and give feedback is really important. Where it's, I guess, supportive, like meaning that like the editor or creative director, whatever, is also like open to having you critique their work. Again, being like this young person walking in, like they've been doing it way longer, and I'm just like this young person walking in, being like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna give you my thoughts now.
Right.
I think that's really, really special. That again, like even the creative director was like, yeah, tell me what you think. Like, at that point, and it's also, it's how we kind of train a whole other generation and give a whole other generation room to grow. But that being said, like I still think the younger people coming up, like I still look to them a lot for ideas and their thoughts, because it's so important,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. So when you were first starting to assess the pieces that you were a part of that were coming into Zealot in New York at the time, um, were you looking at things aesthetically, like to your taste, or were you looking at things, were you trying to develop a marketing eye? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, probably more aesthetically in a
okay,
way. Like, I think eventually, like, marketing, but, I was just like, "Oh, these are indies. We're doing this, like, we're doing our own thing for, like, different." We're not trying to do a four-tier kind of audience here. So I think it was more also just coming from, like, background of critiquing, like, with school, having to critique different, like, photos and paintings and plays. Um, I think it was at that time more when I was younger aesthetically, but,
yeah.
as you keep moving along in this industry, the marketing eye sharpens, so.
You also had a pretty good nose for business, like identifying opportunities. You were pretty early on the Netflix, like you recognized Netflix as a, growing area potentially for a trailer house like that. So how did you develop that sense? And then how did you develop like the process of like reaching out to a potential client and all that? Like how did you know how to do that?
Yeah, I think, well, again, yeah, I really, it was really special to be at Zealot at that time because we were so young and we were really together as a team and trying to just get wins as a team and support each other. And yeah, Mark was just like, sure, go to Berlin, go to Cannes, like, go to these places, talk
Yeah,
to people. Which, I never thought I'd be at the Cannes Film Festival when I was, growing up. Like,
that's so
like
cool.
I was like, who am I right now? Like, what is
Right.
happening? How did I even get here? When are they gonna like bounce me out of here? Um,
Do you still
but
have that feeling?
no, yeah, when are they gonna bounce me out of here?
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much anymore. But but yeah, I think it was instinctual. I mean, I think also a lot of it was just the energy of New York, the hustle of New York,
Mm,
as cliche as that sounds, but and just knowing that, I think talking to people when I first started reaching out, being like, trying to figure out like who should we be talking to if we want to go after this film or we want to go after this series, and then reaching out to different people and finding that a lot of people were pretty open to talking, which was really special, because we really were kind of this like ragtag trailer team like in New York who were very much like out of the industry at the very beginning, out of, sorry, the LA kind of industry,
yeah, yeah.
but I think it was with building up our body of work with the New York community, and again the New York community being so supportive and really not necessarily keeping everything in New York, but I do think that there was some like, oh, we're all in it together also in New York, so like let's
Mm,
let's like work together and help each other out. But yeah, with Netflix, I think at that time, like, I just started seeing that they had House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, and also some of our editors were really, really into those shows, as well as myself, and we're all like, "Oh, it'd be really cool to be able to work on that."
yeah.
So yeah, I cold emailed them and got an email back, and they were like, "Yeah, come meet with us." So then Mark and I like flew out, and then at that time, I think there were about like I don't know, like less than 15 people on the marketing team.
Wow.
So, but
Yeah.
then like I think a few weeks later we got our first job in from them, and that was just it felt like such a win. So there was just a lot of excitement like to get out there and talk to people and show them kind of like who we were and introduce them to what we've been building. And yeah, it was just a really kind of special time.
And as you've built your team now at AV Squad, you've been there for a good stretch. Are you starting to mentor other up and coming producers to do that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah. I mean, I work really closely. I want to give a shout out to Meredith, who is like literally my ride or die at AV Squad. When I got there, I was kind of like just doing everything on my own. And then eventually they're like, here, use Meredith. And I was like, she saved my life. So we could
That's
keep doing
awesome.
it all together. But yeah, I think, you know, I try to encourage people to, I mean, but I feel like everybody kind of already like knows how to do their thing at
Yeah.
you're already, like working on that stuff. But um with the younger generation, yeah, I just like to encourage people to feel free to reach out to different people, because I even if you think like, oh, maybe this person's not going to get back to me, most of the time they do get back to you.
It's interesting.
um
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I think part of it is you, frankly, because you don't come off in a salesy way. You come off as like a earnest,
Few.
engaged, intelligent, like curious person. So
Yeah, well, yeah.
there's a warmth there that and listen, there's the folks that are in those roles, whether it be at a Netflix and other streamers or at a major studio, they're looking for a new solution. Like they
Mm,
know
mm.
what they're going to get from the different agencies that they've been working with for a long time. But they also want to show that, that third trailer that maybe nobody was
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about. So it's interesting your time. So what initially prompted the move to LA? Was it just wanting to be um in a warmer climate? Like what was it?
Yeah, over the winter. I definitely was over the winter at that point. Have going through so many snowstorms growing up, and snowstorms in New York, and like a whole bout of like winter where like it didn't get above, 0 in New York, and walking the streets in freezing cold weather. But
There
no,
is a magical moment, by the way. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I was doing I forgot what I was doing. Oh, you know what it was? It was my year of like, if there is a hell, it would be equivalent to the year that I had to do Music Man. I fucking hate that show. I hated
well,
everybody in it. I
yeah.
hate
Oh
the
no.
characters. I never want to hear another. Anyway, so I did a year worth of Music Man in New York.
Oh no.
And but one of the things I did enjoy was the guy, I forgot his name, but the guy who was playing the main character, and now I can't even remember the main character, Henry Hill, right?
Yeah. Oh
Something like that.
God, I don't even.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but anyway, so he took me out to a bar. I wasn't even old enough to drink, but it was New York.
Yeah.
So he took me
Yeah.
out to a
Yeah.
bar in Chelsea. And then he took me out to another bar, like an after hours bar. And
Yeah.
then, but we came out and the sun was just coming up, and overnight there was a snowstorm, and it was like really, really late. So it was really, really early.
Fresh.
Yeah. And it hadn't like,
Yeah.
no, like the cars weren't moving. So there, like, it was a fresh, beautiful sheet
Yeah.
of snow. And it was just, there was something magical about it. Maybe it
Oh,
was
it's
just
like
because,
that's always the best. Like
yeah,
before, like it's turned into massive slush puddles that you're
yeah,
slipping in, and like what? Yeah, no, I mean there's these magical moments in New York, and then you get hit with like the New York reality. You're
yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
right. That's right.
got it.
Yeah,
That's New York for you.
exactly. One of the coolest things about doing this program is I get to collaborate with friends of mine, not just friends, but friends who are the best at what they do, like my pal Brent Allen Hagel, Trailer VO Brent. Brent, how you doing, man?
Wonderful, Corey. And I think, critics and audiences would agree to that.
So, do Trailer VO guys always talk that way, or do you ever break character?
Would never break character. Cocktail parties, they say, hey, can you do the voice thing for us while they all drink a beer?
Do you do the voice thing while you're drinking a beer?
I've never tried. I could probably win an award for that.
Oh, see, you're already breaking character, man. If we go on too long, you're going to start sounding like Gilbert Gottfried or something.
It'll be like this. Hey, yeah, it was the podcast that did it to me. Hey, then.
All right. All right. So before we hit it, we get back to the show. How can folks find you?
BrentAllenHagel.com, Brent, Allen, Hagel, Hagel.com on the interwebs and social media at Trailer VO Brent on social media.
It's a great follow. Thanks, Brent, and thanks for helping out. And now back to our show. You were over the New York winters.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've been there for 13 years, and that city gave me so much. And it's just with, again, kind of growing up with the arts in Maine, and a more crunchy form of like the arts up in Maine, but then going to New York and being able to experience all this stuff was just so wonderful. But yeah, I was just ready for a shift. And with Zealot too, at that time I'd been there for almost 9 years, and like helped to build it up to 20 some odd people, which to me felt big, but
yeah.
not that big
In the scheme of things. Yeah.
And I'd kind of seen Zealot in a few different incarnations at that time, again, which was really special. But I think at that point I was like ready for something like a little new and different. And then agency wise, like knowing that there just aren't that many agencies in New York, so just definitely looking more towards the West Coast,
Right.
just for more opportunities, and again, for a shift, and being very grateful to the New York indie community and loving that community so much. I was kind of like, okay, well, I've done this for a very long time now. I'm just ready to kind of try something different. And a lot of people, I feel like, not a lot, but there are definitely people who are peeling off, like peeling away from New York, heading to LA,
Yeah.
and then I would call them up. I mean, I think going back to this idea of like informationals, and I still get, I still really try to do informationals, to set people up with other informationals and just to chat with people. But I started doing some informationals just with like other people who had moved out to LA. And like, I think I was talking to one producer and they were just like, oh yeah, I'm just out watering my plants right now. And I'm like, oh yeah, New York is going through like its other hurricane. I don't even know what other craziness we were dealing with, but I was like, it sounds so much calmer. So yeah, so just was looking for a change, and seeing a lot of, of people moving out. Like my friend Jonathan Sutak, who's an editor, he had moved out to LA. And when I would come out to LA for work to do meetings and stuff, I would always catch up with him.
He's a
And
filmmaker too, isn't he?
yeah, he does documentary, which is, yeah, so he still has his hand in the trailer game. He actually just won a Golden Trailer Award, which I applauded very loudly for, and he said he
Which one?
heard me on the live stream. Friendship trailer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, he's an interesting. Oh, and one of my favorite pieces. I was just looking at a bunch of your work. Nightingale is like hypnotizing.
Yeah, and again, that was Sutak, and I don't know. He's a really good friend, and I am so grateful that I have had the opportunity to work with him over the years in various like incarnations. We actually, like, I met him at Zealot when he was still just was editing music videos and came to us, and then we started doing trailers with him. But he's such a talent, and that Nightingale was very much. I mean, that movie is very full on. It's an important film. But he was just like, wow, I'm like working on this and it's pretty intense. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I know it's a.
So I want to get back to when you started at AV Squad, but in a second. But since we're talking about it, like that, like I said, that piece you had a way of. I want to know about that process, because you had a way of really. It was almost like you brought me into a dream, and the dream was the story of that movie, and the characters, without giving away too much, the two characters in particular, I felt like I knew intimately through. I don't know, I don't know how you did it, but like there was something that really brought me into it. And I was just hooked. Like you get both a sense of like epic period, but really deep sense of character. So how do you go about? Do you just like give, okay, here's the movie, Jonathan, like do your thing, and then he comes back, and then you start to, or is it a collaboration throughout?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's giving it, giving the movie Zoom, watching it, and then talking about it. I think I really love having like a lot of it's just one long conversation about the film together. I also like to really give editors space as well to explore, and I
Yeah.
think it's nice when I mean, we don't have the luxury of time,
Right,
but
right, right.
but having a little bit of time to like sit with it and explore it, and then talk about it and talk about the ideas. And I've never really wanted to go in, especially like on a teaser or a trailer, with like, this is the idea, let's do it this way, that's it. Because I feel like I could be like, hey, I have this idea, like, what do you think? Like, how do you? Because again, it's just this collaboration with all of us is what really makes it a great thing and makes the thing, just in terms of the work that I do. So we talked a lot about that film. And I can't remember. I think he suggested using the song, which I really, the song from the film that she sings, which I really loved, because I was like, it's such a powerful moment in the film, and having that run through
Yeah.
the piece just really made it. And I think too, like with the independent work that I've done, like indies, with those indies, like inherently the film has something a little different.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of enhance that, or like really showcase that in the trailer that we're doing, is always really special. And I think that's also like what helps these indie, we have more liberty with the indie trailers, because there's not like a massive ad spend behind them usually, and we need to cut something that's like a little bit different to like cut through,
Yeah. Yeah.
while still being like, while still honoring kind of the idea and the texture and the tone of the film. So I think what they really, Sutak really like captured that, with what he cut. He really captured the film with that piece. And then, yeah, and we ended up working pretty closely with Jennifer Kent, the director on it, which I thought
Oh, wow. That's
was
pretty
really
cool.
special. Yeah, yeah. So, and also having her trust us with the film
Mm.
was really important, because it
Now,
was a very like meaningful film and important film for her. And so being invited into that space and being able to craft something with her, and have her trust what we're doing. And I mean, she also collaborated on it too, with her guidance, once we got, later into the edit.
so when I early on when I started doing podcasts, I learned how to edit,
Yeah.
at least the audio, right? And but eventually I got to the point where I couldn't edit all my own stuff, so I would collaborate with different people and send them off to do some cuts. Um, and there was one time when a piece came back, I'm like, oh shit, I I can't I can't use this. I can't use any
No.
of it. This is fucking awful. Like, has that ever
Yeah.
happened where an editor comes back and you're like, oh no, this is
Well, I mean, I think
and
it can all be.
I want names too, actually.
Yeah. No, I mean, it can all be shaped. And I really I've always had so much respect for editors, because, they're the ones staring at the blank timeline. When I was at Zealot, an editor who was this more senior editor, that I worked with, she told me once, like, and she had just been cutting for years, and I had so much respect for everything she'd done. And then she was just like, every time I look at that blank timeline, I just get so stressed out and I want to scream, because it's just like, it's still so new every time. It's
Yeah.
like you could be doing this for years and years and years. But I think also, like, if you really care about it and you really care about what you're cutting, like, you're still going to be so freaked out every time you start that new
You know what's funny?
process.
So with this show and my politics show and a couple others, the few others that I've been involved with, I don't know how many of these interview type deals I've done.
Yeah.
I'm nervous before every
Yeah.
single one. It's
Yeah.
literally like in the hundreds, maybe approaching 1,000 interviews that I've done.
Yeah.
I'm still like before and you're my buddy. You're my
Yeah.
friend, right?
Yeah. I'm
Like,
not going to
why the
put you
hell
in
am
the
I?
hot
And I'm
seat.
fucking nervous. Like,
Yeah.
but you know
Well,
why?
no, but it's because you
It
care, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's because I want to make sure that, we're prepared. I don't know. There's a lot going on. And if you're I guess if you're a creative person, maybe it's going back to that, like, oh shit, they're going to be on to me now.
yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but no, but I just, I don't know. Yeah, just going back to editors, like, it's a hard job. Like, it's a lot of churn, and and I think, and that's why I value my role, is that I'm able to be there to support and to help guide, but I just have the utmost respect for people who are just sitting in that bay. Like,
So, okay, so I want to go back to New York to LA. Personal question: were you already together with your wife?
we had just gotten together in New York when I was like, I think am moving.
So how did
So
that conversation go?
it went okay. Yeah, she's like, all right, like, yeah. So my wife Mari is from the Netherlands. She'd been in New York for I think about 8 years,
Oh
nine
wow, okay.
years. She went to Stella Adler.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I went to
yeah, yeah,
Stella's.
yeah, yeah.
Did we talk about
I
this?
think a long time ago that was. It's been a minute.
I didn't know that. So okay, so she was studying at
Yeah.
Stella.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but she's a foreign correspondent for one of the Maine Dutch newspapers. So she's like, well, I've always been interested in the West Coast. So
Yeah.
yeah, she was open to moving. So she's we moved out here together pretty early in our relationship. And yeah, I think next year will be 10 years
Wow.
going strong. Two
Mazel
two
tov.
two toddlers, got her twins. But yeah, and then yeah, she does a lot of work out here, just reporting on the West Coast. Which, funny enough, like Europe's like, oh, everything happens in New York, and you're like, well, no, there's a lot happening in
Yeah.
California and over here. So
Yeah, yeah. So okay, it's funny. Like you come to this big decision, but there's other people in your life, and you're like,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
So
But I mean, she was always really supportive, and she knew kind of also like kind of what the New York had, and kind of the opportunities that would be out here. So I'm grateful she was excited about trying this out.
did she hook up with the Stella people out here as well?
A little bit, yeah, because she was also teaching at Stella,
Oh, she
in New
was. So she
York.
knows
Yeah,
I have good friends who run the theater now, Tim and Bonnie.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
so that
Yeah, it's
I
such a
was
small world. It's, like,
it
kinda
really
kinda
is.
wild.
Yeah, yeah. That was a great ensemble. And Joanne Joanne too had a way of like telling me kind of in the most loving way what my strengths were,
Yeah.
but also what my strengths were not. So sh
Yeah, well, she actually, like, amazing woman, and I got to know her through Mari, but, she I think the first time I met her, she's like, "Oh, you're the reason we're losing Mari, like, here
oh,
in New York." Like, I was like,
oh,
"Okay. Sorry. Sorry, she's going to the West Coast."
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a wonderful program, and yeah,
I should go
it's
back and visit those guys. Or even do
yeah.
like a what Joanne used to do. I don't know if they still do it this way, but what Joanne would have these 12-week sessions.
Mm,
And so many good, like Tim and Bonnie were still studying,
mm,
and that generation of actors. So Ruffalo had already booked stuff in New York and he was kind of on his way. But so I didn't get to study with him, although he came back and he co-directed a couple things with Joanne, and produced a couple things. And then his friend Chris wrote a couple things that he ended up directing. Anyway, but the way Joanne used to do it was we would do 12-week sessions and just focus on one
mm.
playwright. So we would do
Oh, wow, cool.
Tennessee Williams, we would do Pinter, we would do G.B. Shaw, we would do,
Mm.
it was just
Yeah.
such a great way to really dive into the material.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then the last time I did that, it was more of an open session. Tim put together the old, some of the old folks, and we
Yeah.
just got together and just like, dusted off our just dusted off some old plays and just put some stuff up, and it was. But I should go back and visit those guys. I really miss those guys.
Yeah, it's such a I don't know, there's again, like, there's such great communities, I think, and, again, like, for the arts, like, finding that community where you can have those kind of conversations and that support is just so valuable and
Yeah.
important, so
So okay, so I'm getting way off track, but so
yeah.
AV Squad,
Yeah.
um, was that counterintuitive for you because your whole career had been boutique, indie, and AV
Yeah.
Squad, bang, and
Yeah. Well,
everything.
I mean, yeah, I have to credit you a lot because 'cause you're kinda like, "Go talk to these guys," and I was like, "But they're Fast and the Furious." Like, I'm Carol, like, how's that? I mean, back in the day, I do remember, like, competing with them on, like, certain, like, Weinstein jobs and stuff, but they'd gone off to this whole other level and this whole kind of very specific brand. So I was like, okay, interesting. I guess I'll go talk to them and see what happens. But yeah, that conversation with Chad and Seth was just that first one I had was just so fun. And I was like, oh, they're huge cinephiles, like they're huge film nerds. Like
Yeah.
this is awesome. And they do love the indies of the world, because I was kind of like, you know what I do, right? Like I'm over here like doing these documentaries, and like, I got all my indie people who I don't also want to like lose. Like I really value those relationships, and I really like find I really care about supporting the indie community. And I would hate not to do that. And they were just like, no, like, so, they gave me a little home to do that with, which was awesome. And I think they also were like, it's nice for the editors to have a mix of stuff to work on. Um, eh, it's really cool that they saw that and wanted to bring it into the business. So.
And you've really, a lot of folks took note of, obviously, Longlegs got a lot of acclaim last year. But what was clear to me is how many artists, how many truly creative people were involved in that.
Mm.
Obviously, a lot the editor, rightfully so, will get a prominence
Mhm.
for pieces, but it wasn't just like the one piece. It was like a whole campaign, and
Yeah.
bringing in music people and designers, and there's so much. So I would imagine that sort of resonates. It kind of harkens back to your original training as a director, where
Yeah.
you're sort of bringing it all together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was always, that's the biggest joy of being a director is like, yeah, you bring all these people together, you're having all these awesome, really cool conversations about work and about creative and where you want to take it. And then finally you make this thing at the end. And yeah, and with Longlegs, it really was a true collaborative effort at the company. And I mean, like Robert found Infrasound, who were a big part of that, and Radius, the music, that were a really big part of, like, distinctive part of the campaign, and really gave it kind of that voice. And then, the different conversations we had internally about like how to shape it. And also a lot of that as well came from Neon. And we're really lucky to be able to work with them and to have them really just like open the door. They're just like, let's go, let's try this stuff out. We're not, we're going to give you this idea, but also just please go off and like kind of continue to shape it, and we trust you, to go do that. And I think, yeah, we were just really grateful to have like that space to play in. And again, like as a full company. Because we were, it's this, even down to the AEs, and our finisher, Brian Smolinski, who is just a saint and is amazing at his job. We actually gave him one of the Clios we won, because we're like, you need to put this in your office because you burned the midnight oil so many nights and you
Wow,
got us to the finish line.
that's awesome.
So yeah, and I think I'm really grateful for all of the people I get to work with, and everything that everybody brings to the table too is just so special.
So I'm curious. There's a lot of folks who listen to this program who are younger, maybe not even in the industry yet, film students. So I'm curious about, when you get a teaser or trailer one to cut on, you're going to throw everything you have on it, right? And your varsity people, if you will. But a whole campaign like that, a lot of different people are able to step up. Whether it's an AE saying, "Hey, let me take a shot at one of the 15s or something," or newer editors, up and coming editors taking a shot at 30s, or maybe even cutting a 2.5 minute piece in their own time. Like, tell me a little bit about that. Were there some editors that really emerged on a campaign like that, or similar
Yeah.
campaigns? Tell
Yeah,
me a
for
little bit
sure.
about
Yeah.
that.
Well, even specifically on Longlegs, Graham, who you might have saw on stage at the
Yeah.
Clios, he started as I think a finisher with us, and then he just started cutting more in his own time. And so we had this like final piece, that the meeting piece with, was about Micah's heartbeat, that we brought to him, and he helped, he cut it together for us, and we shaped that together. So it's really cool to see the younger generation flourishing. And I think another big joy of what I do is being able to give, you know, like I had that space given to me when I first started, to be able to give that space to others is really exciting. And also I just think the excitement that's there in the younger generation is really energizing, and you can also feel it in the pieces. And they also are, I mean, they're, you know, the younger generation, they're on the cusp of like how all this stuff's changing, and we can learn so much from them. I remember I used to volunteer at Ghetto Film School in New York, in the Bronx. On the weekends, like we would be a part of like, you know, like professionals that would go up and be like, you know, they're learning all about filmmaking, and from like the greats, like, you know,
Yeah.
way greater than I, but um we would go up and be like, all right, well, this is the practical part of the industry where you could work for a trailer agency, or you could, you know, go work as a executive or whatnot. But I would go up there and like learn so much from them, like also just about like, you know, what films they're really excited about. You know, they all loved horror so much. And I was like, wow, horror is just the thing, and it's going to continue still being the thing. So yeah, so I guess getting back to Graham, it was really cool to be on that stage with him at the Clios, and yeah, like I said, it's really wonderful to see people be so excited about the work.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, like I said, that is what kind of keeps me going and keeps me energized, and you know, more also younger editors are coming in with like very different ideas about stuff and different approaches to stuff. And that it's just so valuable because we need it, because, you know, constantly we're trying to keep it all fresh, as fresh as
Yeah,
we
for
can.
sure.
So when you have that kind of that breath of fresh air coming in from different places, and in the collaboration in the company, like even with the music department, if there's,
Oh
I
yeah.
think, some younger people who come in and they're like, we know, you know, this is a whole new kind of space that we haven't really been in yet. Like, I think, you know, it's just so valuable, and really important for a company like ours.
Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards. For folks who are just starting to get plugged in, the GTAs is an unconventional ceremony that honors excellence in feature film trailers, teasers, and movie marketing. Or as some folks like to think of it, it's the award ceremony for the short attention span. We all just celebrated the 25th Golden Trailer Awards. So, would that be the Silver Golden Trailer Awards? Either way, it was a terrific show. Monica and Evie do such a wonderful job putting it together. Tons of fun, so much awesome work across the board. And mostly, it was just great to be together as a community. So keep an eye out for a number of exciting developments over the next year. Just make sure to stay plugged in at goldentrailer.com for a ton of exciting developments. That's goldentrailer.com. I was just thinking, like every piece that I watched, I was there's something to really pull you in there, and certain pieces there are just little treats that you don't expect. Like
Yeah.
what comes to mind for some reason, the Hunter season 2.
Oh
That
yeah, yeah.
music is just delicious. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
was that something that came from the client or?
I think we all kind of were like this, you know. But yeah, that's the milkshake Yiddish
Yeah.
version. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all kind of, it was in the film, it was in the series, and we were all kind of like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And we all kind of like, I think even internally we got together and we're like, and we all kind of said it at the same time.
It's awesome.
And then the client was like, oh, I love this thing. And we're like, oh, great. So it was just kind of like we all kind of landed on that. So,
Yeah.
and went for it, which was, yeah, it was so much fun to,
It was
have
perfect
with
because
that.
it was like a fusion of so many different like cultural, you know, like it just ingredients that the recipe just makes so much sense for that particular show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's a way, I don't know, it was just, I think we all had a lot of fun with it. And I think too, like with some of these campaigns, the level of fun that we get to have,
Yeah.
like, really translates in the work. You know, I obviously some, you know, I'm not gonna have fun with a really hard documentary, but I do think, like, when it comes to collaboration, like having that space to have like fun and to play is just what's going to make the work stronger.
You know, not every
So
shop has that as a priority.
yeah.
But very early on, and it was a very critical. I don't know if I've ever shared this story. I hope Chad doesn't get pissed off at me for sharing it.
Uh-oh.
I don't think he will. But it was a very critical time in AV Squad's formative years, right? So it was like year 3, maybe year 4, and it was right after the first Fast and Furious, and they, like, within 6 to 12 months, they were finally getting some opportunities, partly due to Chad's and Seth's proactivity. They're like, hey, we're the ones who did that. Can you give us a shot as, the 5th vendor on frickin' Star Trek or something like that? And they had, brought in some other editors, because at that point it was just Chad and Dan, essentially, and very early on. And then they were starting to bring in other editors to handle these bigger campaigns, right? And one of the guys they brought, he was like a major leaguer, like he was from one of the big shops. I won't indicate who it is, but he was good. He was solid. He could crank out 30s like no other. But he was Mr. Grumpy Pants in the band. He was just like the young producers. I think Ashley was already there. And the young producers, like, they didn't want to say anything, but he was like, he was just kind of a jerk,
Yeah.
And so,
well, like, it just kills the creativity, I think. Then if there's somebody's Mr. Grumpy Pants, then those conversations aren't going to happen, because nobody's going to be like, wants to upset Mr. Grumpy Pants. So yeah, it makes it really.
It was a hard decision at that point. Like, well, we got to do this campaign, and if we don't do this campaign, we won't get another shot. And but they're like, no. This vibe is much more important than any one campaign, So they just made a decision, and that dude landed on his feet. He had plenty of years left in his career. He could be a Grumpy Pants somewhere else.
Yeah.
But that was at the time. It's hard to make that decision,
Yeah. Well, it's also true too. I think. I mean, there can be. Not to keep saying Grumpy Pants, but like, if somebody works in a certain way, then they kind of need to have the people around them that are going to work in that similar way, right? Like, I think I work in a I'm not going to be like working in the Grumpy Pants manner, or just the more stern.
That's going to be the title of this episode.
Yeah,
no, Grumpy
not
Pants.
Grumpy Pants. Sorry, Tina Fey. I feel like I'm taking those glossy pants. But the way that the collaborative environment that I would like for creativity is having a little bit more open and free, and also, having people feel like they can try stuff out, because I think if you're like too scared to try something, like, then that's what's going to kill the creativity right away.
Yeah.
So again, like, just keeping a little lighter and playful. I mean, what we do is really hard, and again, can be a grind. We can be, under the gun for timing, but being able to keep it light in some manner, I think, is just so important for the marathon that we're all on, and again, and just for the space for the creativity to kind of bounce around and develop in that way.
So, speaking of the grind, everything has been a grind over the last few years. Certainly COVID, trying to recover from COVID, seeming like the industry was getting back on its feet, and then getting hit with 2 strikes, what was it, 2023, and then just this year with the fires here in LA. It just seems like we've all been through a lot. I was curious, first of all, how are you doing? But also, like, how have you gotten through it? Like, how have you managed to just kind of keep on keeping on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it goes back to the idea of like art giving space for conversations and stuff. It's just talking to people, and I think feeling like you're supported. I mean, AV Squad, through all of the industry stuff, I felt like they always, they had our backs, which I think it was so special. And it kind of just plays into the culture of AV Squad, and supporting us all to just keep kind of doing our thing while, and also having faith that the industry would figure stuff out, in terms of the strikes. I think that's how we could keep going as a company. And personally, just having my family around me, and friends, and keeping my relationships in, it's just the human connection. It sounds so cliche and silly, but like, that's what gets, being connected to each other is the thing that gets us through all these really hard times. Even with COVID, like, we couldn't be together, but we found ways, I think, to come together in a sense, to help kind of get through these really challenging times. But it does constantly feel like, and there's just so much going on in the world. Again, I live with a journalist, so we talk a lot about it, all of the stuff, and it's just the weight of everything. I feel really privileged in the life that I have, and also like what I get to do for work, and I being able um to support others, I think also helps get me through stuff, knowing I'm supported, but I can also help support other people. So yeah, it's been a bigger picture kind of wild time, but knowing that if we can support one another, like that's how we can get through it. On an industry level, like again, I do think like it's like how can we continue to support each other, and knowing that like we all work together, have each other's backs. I think that's kind of the only way to get through it, and to ride all the waves, like to
Yeah.
ride all the crazy stuff that kind of just keeps coming, and knowing that as a team, like we can get through stuff together, like
Yeah.
we are like truly together.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of folks who really stepped up, across the industry. So there's something to be said for that. Not everybody,
yeah.
not
Yeah,
everybody,
I mean,
but
it's hard to. I mean, you need to have the right. Yeah, it has to be like the right situation, the right people to be able to get there and step up and support each other. So
yeah, no, and it is true. There's a lot of folks who, like I said, stepped up, and those are the folks that you hold close, and then the folks who don't kind of show they have different priorities and they go about it in a different way, in a way that's kind of cool too, because it's like, oh, okay, that's
mhm.
cool. I can even still love that person, but I'll just love
Yeah,
them
yeah.
from far away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You
right.
know?
It's like you kind of, I mean, yeah, everybody kind of like, moves through the world differently, and you kind of try to find the people who are like-minded, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we kind of see that similarly, so let's stick together, and
Yeah.
and the other people can kind of stick together in their way, but
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
In their way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a couple of fun questions. I don't know if you knew I was going to ask you this. I'm sort of putting you on the spot. Favorite campaign or piece of creative advertising, not necessarily your own?
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I always I'm gonna say like Little Children. I always
Of
loved
course. Yeah,
that
yeah.
trailer. And it was also kind of, earlier in my career, and I always looked to that trailer.
Yeah.
And just I think we at some point we had like a thing at Zealot where we'd all bring in like, our favorite pieces
Yeah.
from like, over the time. So I brought in that. So
So did you know Meisner? So first of all, Meisner, Chad
yeah.
Meisner, the guy who cut that, he's the one who taught me how to edit actually.
Oh,
When I
right.
was learning how to do sound
You
editorial,
got the best.
seriously, oh, isn't that great? Like, isn't that
Yeah.
the other thing that I don't think I've ever told folks is he cut his own episode when he came in and did his,
Oh, right.
so we recorded the entire thing twice,
Yeah.
and he had
Yeah.
all of this material because there was like a technical problem with his mic
Yeah.
the first time, so we re-recorded the whole thing,
Oh,
and I'm like,
wow.
Chad, I don't know if I could cut this together. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm an editor, right?
Yeah, see,
He cut his
we're
own
all
episode.
supporting each other. That's that's
Yeah,
great.
he's the best. He's
Yeah,
also
but
sort of a mentor of mine in a whole other way. Dawn Bailey's really the one who got me into meditation in the first place.
oh, nice. Yeah.
But Meisner was like encouraging me in the most like Zen way for
Yeah.
years. He's been kind of encouraging me in that
Yeah.
direction as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no,
Oh, that's really cool.
definitely one of
No.
my favorite pieces as well.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good one. Yeah, that
Yeah,
one
I want to give
counts.
a shout out to Jarhead too, like way
Oh,
back when. And yeah, Ellen Dimmler cut that. And I got to work with her at a period at Zealot, and I always really, loved the time I got to work with her,
oh
and
wow.
learned
Wait,
so much from her.
did she cut that? Was she at Trailer Park? Where was she
I
when
think
she
so.
cut that one?
I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
Trailer Park. I know,
Oh
yeah, she
man.
was at Trailer Park for a while, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I should know this. She's so if Ellen or any of Ellen's contemporaries are listening, please give me shit for not knowing that off the top of my head. I want to get that right.
You're supposed
Um,
to know everybody's,
I know, I know.
spots at whatever, area. Maybe you have this giant board that you connect
That's
everybody on.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. That was so and so 1920. Yeah, that was
Yeah. I
anyway.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There's just so much amazing work that came before us all, and I mean, as it keeps growing. I mean, and all of this stuff too, like keeps we keep being influenced. Even with Longlegs, we were influenced by Alien. Like, it's just we're all taking from little bits from all over and across the industry. Like, that's why I'm so grateful. Like, even at the Golden Trailers this year, I was just like, oh, there's so much good work coming from everywhere this year, and we're all kind of like, we keep pushing each other, which is really
I have
cool.
to absolutely beg to come on this show is Robert Greenberg.
Mm-hmm.
So the brothers,
Yeah.
so Richard passed away, but the brothers were early on in New York, and they had so much to do with that Alien. I'm pretty sure that the trailer. I'll have to check with Luke.
Yeah.
Luke Silva Greenberg over at Bond is his uncle, his dad.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
His dad was
Oh, yeah.
Richard, and his uncle is Robert. But
Yeah.
I'll have to check with him. So R. Greenberg eventually is what became Imaginary Forces. But when they were in New York back in the late 70s, that's what they were doing. I got to get that story straight, because a few people have alluded to that piece. Pretty
Oh,
sudden.
that'd be really cool to learn about. I don't know. I love learning about all this stuff. It's so cool.
So if you were talking to the 20-nothing-year-old version of yourself that's just now entering the industry, what advice would you give to that young person to give yourself a really good chance of having a rich, enriching kind of career, a life in this industry?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm going to piggyback off advice that I got from this New York agent back when I was young, when I was out doing informational interviews. I was trying to figure out, like, oh, how do I, like, so I had this experience, like, where should I go and what should I do? And she looked at me and she's like, you're not a pigeon. Don't let anybody pigeonhole you. And I was like, that's great advice. I'm gonna roll with that. So I'm going to say, like, a little bit of that. I think that was really helpful to kind of just be like, really, keep your eyes open and go with the flow, and kind of chart your own course, which was also kind of really like New York indie world. But I think, I would say, like, and I kind of felt it throughout the years too, but like, just really valuing the time I had with different people and all the different, companies I've been at, and learning, from each other and just supporting each other, um, is is something that I think I would, keep in mind. And doing, trying to find good people to work with, like, just putting our heads down and doing good work together. Yeah, and maybe not being so worried. I think I'm a natural worrier. I probably get it from my Sicilian grandmother, but I think, not I've we've weathered so many I mean, I started off also when the financial crisis hit in New York, and weathering that storm when it was like myself, like, and Justin and Mark, like, in our, in our bay at post factory. Yeah, just kind of knowing that we can get through stuff, even if it feels like really massive massive things are happening. Again, if we're supporting each other, we can get through it. So yeah, trying not to worry as much, but I don't know if that's ever going to go away. So
that makes a total sense and totally consistent with who I know you to be. But I would have been thoroughly entertained if you said something like, well, Roy Cohn once told me, fuck everyone, don't imitate anything, sue everybody, step on anybody you can that's in your way. Like,
oh,
that
yeah,
would have been like,
that's really me, like, yeah, that's me to a T. Not at all. No, I'm a really, I don't know. I feel like I'm a gentle person, but maybe I'm not. I'm a New Yorker at heart. But yeah, I don't know. I think authentically to myself that stepping on anybody is not my vibe. So it's like, I want to, like, step up to the next step together. Like, that's the beautiful thing of I think this industry, is that, again, we're doing it together, and when we get to get people wins, or make room for people to get wins, or, like, just to be able to, like, go up, to go up to the next level together is just so important. Yeah, going back to, like, even when I was talking about Zealot, like, getting those first wins in, and, like, when we did Blue Valentine and, like, all that, I was just like, oh, this is awesome. Like, we're doing it together. Like, it's really important to me. So
yeah, there is something uniquely New York about that. Like, I remember we caught a glimpse. My Aunt Rhoda was still alive during September 11th. and there was no way for us to contact her. She was in the city. She was still working at ABT, American Ballet
Mm.
Theater. Their offices were at 890, or still are at 890
Mhm.
Broadway. Um, and she was in between bouts of cancer, and
Mm.
we caught a glimpse of her being walked across Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They found their way all the way down there, and she was with a couple of people from the company that were basically walking her home.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and but that wasn't just Aunt Rhoda. That was all of New York.
Yeah.
September 11th.
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel like New Yorker yeah, no, no, there is a sense of, like, this place is we're here, this place is crazy, we're kind of all in it together,
Yeah.
like, we're gonna and I used to happen on the I think one time I was on the subway and the power went out and we're all stuck down there and we're all, like, trying to figure out, like, how to get off together and making space for each other, and yeah, it's I guess it is kind of like an inherently New York thing, but
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so now you get to turn the tables on me. Do you have
yeah.
any questions for me?
Well, I mean, I think, I was talking to an editor today and mentioning I was going to do this, and then we're both kind of like, Corey has really just shaped this industry. You've shaped like a really big part of this industry, and you've kind of created, like, made, yeah, you've made some of these companies become who they are by the people that you've kind of brought together. What's your secret?
Oh, so first of all, I think you're giving me to put it that way. I appreciate it, but I think you're
Yeah.
giving me way too much credit. But
Well,
the
I mean, I would like to say because you really have, like, found a way to, like, put certain people together that creates this special, spark that then, these places go off and become bigger things, so
I think the part of that I can affirm is that the industry is a people driven industry. It really is. The companies aren't spreadsheets,
yeah.
and the stuff the industry makes isn't widgets. The
Yeah.
the bricks are the people. The bricks of companies, the building blocks of companies are the people, and then getting people of like mind, like spirit, um, like heart,
Mm.
that align in all of those ways, in all of those uniquely human ways. That's wonderful to see. And I can see it, like, when I, introduce somebody. A lot of times when I make the introduction, I'll go to the dinner with them.
Mhm.
Part of it is just because I'm usually putting two people together that I like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, I like
yeah.
everybody involved, so I just want to hang out with everybody. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but part of it is just to see, oh wow, this is really cool. Like,
yeah,
I see these sparks and I see where this could go. Um, and that's that also, in a sense, I should say, gives me hope for the future of the
mhm,
industry, because there's something there's something distinct about human beings and
mhm.
human connection that can't be replicated in a
Yeah,
lab. That can't
yeah,
be,
yeah,
you know, AI will, for example, will find great tools, wonderful tools, but there's something that cannot be replaced by the soulishness of
yeah,
the people who make up this industry. So, uh, yeah, I don't know, just like recognizing that. Um, again, I won't take credit for it, but like, just seeing that, being appreciating people, and
yeah,
seeing them for who they are, or trying to get a glimpse of it at least, and then imagining who would be really cool to be together. Like, how does that sound?
yeah,
How does that look, and how does that sound together? The way you might imagine, great jazz musicians together.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, Putting that percussionist with that pianist with that, horn player. Just like, I don't know, just imagining it in that way is pretty cool. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes, you can't get those two egos in the same room.
mhm,
Um, and recognizing that too, recognizing the ones
yeah,
that don't belong together.
yeah,
Um, But then, man, when it works, it really fucking works. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah. No, it's
So-
really magical. It's really magical that, I don't know, that you can bring people together to do this kind of creative collaboration, and it's it's really special. So and
before
thank
we
you
hit-
for it all.
I got to say that before we hit record, I told you that I'd be asking you if you have any questions. Your eyes lit up and it kind of scared me.
Yeah. I
didn't
don't know. As I said, I really enjoy learning about people and asking lots of questions, and I've always asked a lot of questions. So, and I just, like I said, I feel like you're a big part of the agency side of things, and a part of the history of the agency side. So, so maybe one day you can write a book. I feel like I would read it.
That's cool. That's
how
cool.
it all came together.
That's interesting. That'd be fun. But what it would be is just like kind of curating the stories that have been told on this show,
Yeah. Well, no, and I mean, I think it's so cool you do this too. It's like we're such a niche part of the industry, but we're all like very, it's like we're all super in it. And it's cool that there's this oral history that you've taken of it. So.
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. All right, so I know we covered a lot, but is there anything we haven't covered that you want to add before we start to wind it down?
No, I don't. I feel like we've covered most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just appreciate being able to also share my story, and yeah, I think the AI of it all, like it's scary to think about, but yeah, like you're saying, I don't know if that will necessarily, like, soul can translate into that. So that does give me like a lot of hope. I feel like we've talked a lot about like connection and human connection, and that being able to continue to carry this industry forward is just really gives me a lot of hope too.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see as I get older what trailers look like, and I can be like, back in my day, and my kids will be like, can you stop? But yeah, it's exciting to see like how everything continues to shape and move forward.
Yeah.
With all the new stuff happening.
For sure. Well, this was okay. So before we go, how can folks find you and AV Squad online and get more information and all the things about all the great work that you guys are doing?
Yeah. avsquad.com, new website, so
okay.
exciting stuff.
All right.
I'm just on LinkedIn, where I post a lot of my stuff. But that's, I guess I'm not a huge brand ambassador online, but but
There's some great work, and a lot of times, the individuals at AV Squad post, when they get to finish something and give you shout outs and vice versa.
Yeah,
so
no, which is
that's
nice.
fun to track with.
Yeah, it's nice to also see, like, the team behind it, and I am excited to, when I get to, give a shout out to our team. It's really nice. So
yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
But yeah, I'll be on La Brea. I'll be in that office on La Brea. That's how you can find me.
Yeah. And anytime I get a hankering for sugarfish, I know where to go.
Exactly. That's what everybody says. That's our cafeteria, I guess. So
that's awesome.
Funny.
That's awesome. Well, this is really great, Andrea. It's always fun hanging out with you. I'm sure we'll be. Well, I saw you a few days ago, and hopefully I'll see you, in a few more days, and we'll hang out again.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Corey. I really appreciate it.
You bet. And as always, please rate us, review us, wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help in the rankings. Follow us on all the socials. I am at Corey S. Nathan. That's at COREY, S as in Sam, NATHAN, at Corey S. Nathan. Check out our awesome sponsors, the Golden Trailer Awards. You can see who all won and all that good stuff. Brent Allen Hagel, Trailer VO Brent. And Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. Really grateful to all those folks. They help us keep the lights on. Thanks again for joining us. Now go do some inspired work.